Before I start, if you're listening to this, please subscribe and like this video. It keeps the channel alive and lets me bring you more stories that most people won't dare to tell. It's strange how some truths feel heavier the longer you keep them locked inside. It's been 3 years since I stumbled across it, that place, that thing, and in that time, I've barely slept through a full night without waking up to the echo of my own heartbeat in my ears. I thought I could forget. I thought maybe if I ignored it long enough, the images would fade. They haven't. They've only gotten sharper. Back then, I wasn't the type to go looking for trouble. I wasn't some cyberpunk hacker or adrenaline junkie. I was just a bored insomniac with a laptop and a curiosity that seemed harmless until it wasn't. I'd been on Reddit, drifting through r/no-sleep, r/true off my chest, and eventually the kind of subs that talk about the deep web like it's some haunted house you can visit for the thrill. Half the posts are fake, I thought. Just internet campfire stories. But that night, I wasn't reading. I was clicking on a comment buried in a thread that had been deleted an hour after I saw it. The comment didn't have much, just a string of text that didn't look like a link at first. It was a jumble of letters and numbers, with the phrase, "If you're going to look before it's gone." 3 days. I don't know why my fingers moved to copy it into my Tor browser. I told myself it was harmless curiosity, but deep down, I think I already felt that gravity, that pull, towards something I shouldn't see. The site was black. No logos, no menus, just a single sentence in red text, pulsing faintly like it was breathing. "Do you want to confess?" I hovered there for a while, not knowing if it was some kind of ARG or interactive art piece. But curiosity's a funny thing. It doesn't just tug at you, it whispers. It tells you you've already come this far. I clicked yes. The page changed instantly. No loading time. A text box appeared, white against the void. Above it, type the secret that is eating you alive. You have 60 seconds. I didn't have a secret, not one worth typing. I almost closed the browser, but something about that ticking clock, it made my chest tighten. I typed something stupid, something small, just to see what would happen. The moment I hit enter, the page went black again. Then the red text returned. "Now we share one of ours." I waited. My laptop fan started to hum, and I swear I could hear something faint beneath it, a low hiss, like someone breathing through static. Then, text began to appear, one character at a time. It wasn't a story. It was a description. A confession from someone who said they worked in a place where bodies are cleaned before they're used again. They wrote about things I didn't understand, machines that peeled away faces like masks, fluids drained into steel drums, voices coming from empty skin. The words were clinical, detached, but the details, they made my stomach twist. And then, at the end, there was a timestamp. The same date as that day. And the initials. Mine. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it felt like the sound would wake the whole building. I sat there, staring at the dark screen, my reflection warped in a glass. How could they have my initials? I didn't go back to the site that night. I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed, feeling like my apartment was smaller somehow, like the walls had crept in an inch while I wasn't looking. The next day, I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe the initials were common. Maybe it was all random. But when I finally opened my laptop again, I saw it, an email in my inbox from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line. Just one sentence in the body. "You didn't give us your real secret." I swear to you, I never gave them my email. Not on Reddit, not in Tor. I don't even know how that's possible without some kind of breach. But there it was, sitting in my inbox like it had been waiting for me. I deleted it immediately, cleared my cache, ran every antivirus scan I could find. But that night, when I tried to sleep, my phone lit up on my nightstand. One new text message. No number, just unknown. The message was a single photo. It was my building, taken from across the street. The timestamp? 10 minutes earlier. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again, the image from the site. It wasn't just the violence, it was the way the camera lingered, as if the person filming wanted me to feel complicit. As if they knew I was watching and somehow wanted me to acknowledge them. I couldn't get the face out of my mind, not the victims, but the one briefly reflected in a shiny metal surface in the background. The reflection wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I had this sickening realization, they were smiling. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, my phone was still on the desk, screen black, but I could feel the weight of it. The same way you can feel someone staring at you without looking. I didn't touch it all morning. But by noon, curiosity, or something darker, was gnawing at me again. I told myself I was just going to delete the link. Just erase it, pretend it never happened. The problem was, the link didn't exist anymore. When I opened my browser history, there was nothing there. My messages with the anonymous sender? Gone. It was like it had never happened. But the phone buzzed the moment I tried to put it down. One new message. No name, no number. Just a string of coordinates. I stared at them for a long time, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I thought about ignoring it. About throwing the phone into the river. But my brain had already started pulling up maps, cross-referencing the numbers before I could stop myself. The location wasn't far, about an hour's drive from my apartment, just on the edge of town. Industrial area. Empty at night. I told myself I wasn't going. I told myself normal people don't follow GPS pins from strangers who send snuff footage. But later that night, I found myself behind the wheel anyway, the glow of my dashboard the only light in the car. Every mile I drove, the air seemed heavier. The streets grew emptier. Street lights flickered like they were trying to warn me away. When I got there, I saw the building immediately. Old warehouse. Windows covered. A chain link fence around it with one section cut open just wide enough for someone to slip through. I didn't get out of the car at first. I just sat there, hands gripping the wheel, listening to the engine idle. But then my phone buzzed again. One word, inside. The worst part was, I felt something pull me. Like this invisible hand was on my back, pushing me toward the fence. My body was moving before my brain had decided anything. I ducked through the gap, my breath clouding in the cold night air, and walked across the cracked concrete toward a side door that hung slightly open. The smell hit me before I stepped inside. Damp. Rust. Something else I didn't want to identify. My footsteps echoed too loudly, and each one felt like it was being swallowed by the dark. I could see a faint glow ahead, pale blue, like a computer screen in a dark room. I followed it. The source was a small office space, stripped bare except for a desk in the center and an old monitor on top. The screen was already on, displaying a live video feed of a hallway. Not this hallway, but somewhere else. It was narrow, dimly lit, and the camera seemed to be moving slowly, as if carried by someone walking forward. I couldn't tell where it was. Then the camera on screen turned toward a door, and my stomach flipped. The number on the door was my apartment number. I froze. My brain couldn't process it. I stared at the screen like maybe if I looked long enough, it would morph into something else. But it didn't. The chipped paint. The dent near the bottom where I dropped a heavy box months ago. The tarnished brass numbers, 312. My apartment door. The feed wasn't pre-recorded, I knew it. The way the camera swayed slightly with each step, the faint hiss of ambient noise. My own hallway's fluorescent light hum, unmistakable. Whoever was holding that camera was outside my apartment right now. I stumbled back, my chair screeching across the concrete. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I almost didn't check, but the sound pierced the silence. One new message. Turn around. Every hair on my body stood up. Slowly, against every survival instinct, I turned. There was no one in the room. Just the door I'd come through, still hanging open, the night air seeping in. But the moment I turned, the monitor flickered. The hallway feed was gone. Now it showed me. My own face, lit by the blue glow of the screen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. The camera was close, too close, yet I didn't hear anyone behind me. My chest tightened. I could see my pulse in my neck on the screen. Then the feed jerked violently, as if the camera operator had moved fast. A blur of motion. The image steadied, revealing not my face anymore, but the warehouse I was standing in. Only, it was empty. The desk was there, but no monitor. No me. It was like watching a version of the room from a moment in the future. A version where I was gone. I took a step back, and the feed shifted again. Now, the camera was running, down the hallway I didn't recognize, turning corners, passing doors. I realized, with growing dread, that it was moving deeper into the warehouse. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't text. It was an image. Low resolution. Grainy. But I recognized the figure instantly. It was me, standing in the exact position I was in right now. Only in the photo, there was a shadow standing just behind me. A shape too tall, too thin, with its head bent low, almost brushing my shoulder. The warehouse went silent. I realized that it wasn't silent before. There had been a low hum, like distant machinery or a building's old heating system. Now, that hum had stopped. And I could hear breathing. It wasn't mine. The breathing was faint, almost too quiet to notice, like the slow drag of air through something narrow. I didn't move. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but another voice, the one I didn't want to acknowledge, whispered, "If you move, it'll move too." My eyes darted to the screen. The camera feed was gone now, replaced by static, like snow falling in digital form. But if I leaned close enough, I swore I could see shapes in it, almost like something pressing up against the inside of the monitor, distorting the white noise. A sharp clack echoed behind me. Not loud, but precise. Like a heel hitting concrete. My throat went dry. I turned my head just enough to see the warehouse's shadowed corners, but everything looked the same. That was somehow worse. It meant whatever was making the sound could be anywhere. Another clack. This one closer. I took a step back toward the desk without realizing, my hand searching for something, anything, I could use as a weapon. But the surface was bare except for the monitor, the keyboard, and the faint trace of dust where my phone had been before I picked it up. The static on the screen shifted. A pattern emerged, lines intersecting like some crude maze, almost geometric. Then the shapes began to move, forming something unmistakable, a doorway. My doorway. And something was coming through. I couldn't see it fully, not yet, just long, pale limbs stepping out of the whiteness, their joints bending in ways they shouldn't. It was the suggestion of a figure more than the figure itself, like my brain refused to fill in the details to protect me. My phone vibrated again. I didn't want to look, but my hand moved on its own. Stop pretending you're alone. I nearly dropped it. My skin prickled with the certainty that eyes were on me. Not from one direction, from every direction. Something brushed the back of my neck. It wasn't a bug. It was an error. It felt deliberate, cool fingers tracing up toward my hairline. I spun around, nearly losing my balance. The room was still empty. The open doorway to the night outside was just a black rectangle now, swallowing the light from the few dim fixtures inside. I backed toward the desk, not taking my eyes off that doorway. But the monitor's glow was pulling at my vision, tugging it like a magnet. I didn't want to see, but I couldn't stop myself. The static figure was fully through now. Its proportions were wrong, arms too long, legs too narrow, head tilted at an angle that suggested curiosity or hunger. I couldn't decide which. It didn't move like it was walking. It slid forward, each step both sudden and smooth. Then, it stopped. Not in the static, but in the reflection. I realized the black surface of the monitor was reflecting the space behind me. And in that faint reflection, distorted by the glass and light, I could see something standing in the room with me. It was in the same spot as the static figure, which meant it wasn't in the monitor anymore. I turned slowly. The space was empty. My pulse was so loud in my ears it was hard to hear anything else. But then, the breathing came back. Closer. I did something I regret. I called out. "Who's there?" It was like speaking the words gave it permission. The air shifted. The shadows along the wall trembled, as if something had passed through them. My phone buzzed in my hand again. I didn't want to look, but I knew I would. This time it was a video. I pressed play. The footage was shaky, like it had been filmed from a pocket or through cloth. But I recognized the setting instantly. It was my apartment again. Only now, my bedroom door was half open, and through the gap, a figure stood. That same tall, wrong-shaped shadow, its head just visible at the top of the frame. Then the camera moved forward, pushing the door open further. The shadow tilted its head in a way that made my stomach clench. It was looking directly at the camera. No, at me. The video ended abruptly. I looked up from the phone. The warehouse suddenly felt too small, like the walls were closer than before. I could smell something now, old metal and damp concrete. And underneath it, something sweet. Sickly sweet, like flowers left to rot. The monitor flickered again. This time, it showed a countdown timer. 5. The numbers ticked down, each one making the room feel heavier. 4. I gripped the desk without meaning to, nails digging into the wood. 3. Somewhere in the distance, a door slammed. 2. The breathing was right next to my ear now. 1. The monitor went black. The darkness in that instant felt alive, like something had inhaled the light. And then, just as my chest began to tighten from holding my breath, words appeared on the screen in a deep, crimson red. "You're ready." The room seemed to tilt. My stomach lurched, but my legs wouldn't move. "You're ready for what?" I whispered without meaning to. The answer came not from the monitor, but from the phone still in my hand. The speaker crackled, and a voice I didn't recognize, but one that sounded like it had always been part of me, said, "To come home." And then I felt it, something pressing gently against my spine, as if guiding me toward the doorway that wasn't on any map, that didn't exist until this moment. The air on the other side was cold, almost wet. My mind screamed at me not to go, but my body didn't listen. Because somewhere deep down, a truth I didn't want to admit was beginning to surface. I'd been walking toward this moment for years. Every strange dream, every static-laced nightmare, every glitch in the corner of my vision, they had all been leading here. And stepping through that doorway didn't feel like leaving the warehouse. It felt like leaving the world. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that single, frozen frame from the video, her face, twisted, but not with pain. No, it was something worse. Something that almost looked like recognition. Like she knew me. The hotel's old radiator hissed and knocked in the corner, masking the distant hum of the city outside. I sat at the little desk, the glow of my laptop painting everything in pale blue, the folders still open on the desktop. But I couldn't bring myself to click the second file. It was still there, in red text, "Do not open until you are ready." I didn't know what ready meant. But my gut told me, once I opened that file, I'd never be able to go back to whatever normal had been. I glanced at the clock. 3:41 a.m. My phone buzzed. No caller ID. The message was short. "You shouldn't have seen her." I froze. I hadn't told anyone about the video. Not a word. And then, another text, instantly after, "She's been waiting for you to come back." I dropped the phone like it had burned me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely pick it up again. I wanted to reply, demand answers, but before I could type anything, the number vanished from my recent messages. Like it had never existed. Something shifted in the room. It was subtle, almost nothing, a change in the air pressure, the faint creak of the floorboards behind me. But I was alone. Or I should have been. I spun around. The room was empty. Just the desk, the bed, my bag on the floor. But the air felt thicker. The shadows seemed longer than they should be, like they were stretching toward me. I backed up against the wall, staring at the laptop. And then, like a reflex I couldn't control, I moved the mouse, double-clicked the second file. The screen went black for a moment. Then, static. The sound was sharp, almost painful, like it was right inside my skull. Slowly, the static faded into an image. A hallway. Narrow. Yellowed wallpaper peeling from the walls. A single overhead light flickering. The camera moved forward, footsteps echoing. It stopped at a door. Room 6. My stomach dropped. A hand, pale, thin, reached into frame and turned the handle. Inside, the room looked wrong. The dimensions were off. The ceiling too low, the corners slightly curved instead of sharp. And in the center, a chair. On it, her. The same woman from the first video. Same long, dark hair. Same pale skin. She was looking directly into the camera. Into me. She smiled, slow and deliberate. Her lips barely moved as she whispered something. I turned up the volume, but the sound was distorted, buried in static. Still, I thought I could make out the words, "You came back." The camera jolted forward, closer to her face. Her eyes were black. Not just the pupils. All of it. And in them, I saw movement. Shapes. Like people or things, shifting in the dark. Suddenly, the screen cut to black. For a second, I thought it was over. Then a new image faded in. My hotel room. Right now. From the corner near the ceiling. I was in the frame. Sitting at the desk. Watching. A slow, cold wave ran down my spine. I turned to look at the corner of the room, nothing there. But when I turned back to the laptop, the image was still there. Still me. But now, there was someone standing behind me in the feed. A woman. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it rattled the desk. My breath was ragged. My ears were ringing. I didn't open it again. I shoved everything into my bag, grabbed my jacket, and left the room without looking back. The hall outside was empty, the faded carpet muffling my footsteps. I didn't wait for the elevator, just bolted down the stairs and out into the street. It was raining. Hard. The kind of rain that feels like it's trying to push you back. I didn't stop walking until I was 6 blocks away. I found a 24-hour diner and sat in a booth by the window, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee I didn't drink. Every so often, I'd catch my reflection in the glass. And each time, I thought I saw another face over my shoulder. I stayed there until sunrise. When I finally worked up the courage to return to the hotel, I went straight to the front desk to check out. The clerk, an older man with half-moon glasses, looked confused when I gave my room number. "Sir, we don't have a room 6. I just stared at him. "Yes, you do. I was in it last night." He shook his head slowly. "We haven't had a room 6 for years. That part of the building was sealed off after." He trailed off, glancing around like he'd said too much. "After what?" I pressed. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping. "It's better if you don't ask questions you don't want answers to." I left without another word. Back home, I tried to put it behind me. I threw the laptop into a closet and told myself it was over. But the text started again. Always from a block number. Always short. "She knows where you are. You'll have to finish it. Don't make her wait." And last night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, the hallway was empty. Just a small, unlabeled envelope on the floor. Inside, one single key. Brass. Worn. The number stamped into it was 6. I'm writing this now because I know I won't be able to for much longer. I don't know where the key fits. I don't know if I want to know. But I can feel her getting closer. And if you're watching this, if you ever find a room that isn't on the map, in a hotel, in a building, anywhere, don't go inside. Subscribe for more true dark web and horror stories. And if you dare, like this video to let me know you're still here.